Hello, Scott here from Other Record Labels. Today, I want to walk you through a 10-step plan for your new release. This is a question I actually get asked the most. Basically, people just want to know, we have a new release that we're almost ready to release, and I just want to know where to begin. I don't want to miss any steps. I talk a lot about a work back schedule, the idea of like picking a release day and then working back. And so if you have the masters in hand, or if you think the artist is just about to be finished recording, you probably want to make sure you do everything right leading up into release day and after release day. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, just to make sure that you get everything right. I have a very simple 10-step plan, starting at step 1 all the way to step 10. And by the way, if you don't feel like taking notes or you don't want to get lost, you can download these 10 steps on like a PDF that you can print off and do in your own time. Just go to otherrecordlabels.com/plan. All the notes from today's episode will be there as well. And then you can download like basically a checklist for these 10 plans. Let's go. Number one is finish the album. This like may sound obvious to you, but it's surprisingly not obvious to everyone. A lot of people get started and they even publicly announce their new release, and the music isn't finished. The band's not finished recording. And that's a huge problem for a couple reasons. First of all, recording always takes longer than you think, because artists can be precious, bless their heart, but they are, they tinker with their mix for a long time, and then they want to add other instruments, or they change their mind on songs. Or if you're working with a mix engineer, a mastering engineer, you're kind of the victim to their timeline. So you have to just let them do their thing. And the release date can get pushed back because the music isn't ready. So finish the record. I honestly think when you want to pick a release date, make sure you have the album done, or it's being mastered. Wait to make sure your music is finished. Even if it's in the mastering stage, that's okay. We know it's going to be finished. You can start to pick your singles and start to pick your release date. Okay, number 2. Make a schedule. I've always talked about working back from release day. So let's pick the most ideal release day, give yourself a lot of time, and then work back from there. This schedule we're talking about exists from when you have the masters in hand till release day. So what's on this schedule? We're going to plot out the pre-release singles. If you've got a 10-song album, you really should be doing 2 to 3 pre-release singles. If it's a 3 or 4 song EP, maybe you only have 1 single, maybe 2 singles leading out, but we want to plot those on a calendar. And remember, I like to leave 2 to 3 weeks in between singles to give us time for fans to discover it and to enjoy the music before another one comes. And so this starts to, let's say we have a release day in 4 months from now, a month before that. So 3 months from now, we're going to release our second single. A month before, so 2 months from now, we release our first single. You know what I mean? That kind of scheduling is what you want to do. Number 3, make and gather your assets, your promotional assets. So we want to gather all of our promotional assets. And what I mean by this is stuff like press photos. We need a bio. We need to upload the songs to a streaming platform like Bandcamp or SoundCloud so that we can share that private link with members of the press. We want to figure out what kind of packages we're doing, and when it comes to sales, so we can get that all together and we can advertise that in some mock-ups if we're doing vinyl or cassettes. Obviously, we need our album cover and we need our singles. Every pre-release single is going to have a different cover, so we need to get those all together. I like to keep everything in a folder that's on the cloud so I can access it from anywhere. I was lying in bed last night and a magazine, like a blog, emailed me and said, hey, I'm interested in this new single you released. Can you send me the lyrics, and can you send me a bio, and can you send me a press photo, and can you send me MP3s? And so luckily I had all of those in Dropbox. I was able to copy the link from all of those in bed and send it to this blog. So gather your assets. Number 4 is start the most urgent things first. Okay, so number 4 might actually, by the way, finishing the album or getting the album in hand and making a schedule and gathering your assets and starting the most urgent thing first, this might all just happen on day 1. Like this is all, if you're on the ball, you can all be doing this right away. This is not like separated by weeks or days. But I like to start the most urgent things first. So one of those is like if I have the final WAV files, I upload those to my digital distributor so that they can get that in queue on Spotify and Apple Music. If there's any resistance or if I've done anything wrong, I can know about that ahead of time, and that gives me a lot of time. So I always make sure I've uploaded to my distributor, even if I'm 4 to 6 months in advance. There's members of the press too that like to have the album months in advance. Bandcamp Editorial likes to have an album like at least 2 to 3 months in advance. If you're manufacturing, you want to start that right away. So if you've got the masters on a Monday, that should be uploading to your vinyl pressing plant right away. Start negotiating, getting the prices for your whatever manufacturing, if it's t-shirts or CDs or vinyl or cassettes or all of those things. do those as early in the process as possible. Don't worry about certain social media things or interviews or press or anything. Get your manufacturing rolling, because that's going to take several months, and that can be happening in the background while you're doing those other things. And like, if you're going to work with like a music video director, reach out to them and get them stewing and thinking about the single ideas, that kind of stuff. Number 5, make a list of objectives. Now, objectives are like, this is the why that we're doing this. And I'll talk about goals in a second. But number 5 is make a list of objectives. Why are you doing this project? Why are you releasing this artist or this EP or this album or this single? Are you just starting to build your brand's identity and your label's brand? Are you testing out a new artist? Is this just a passion project? You love this album, it's an old release, and you want to re-release it. Is it just another monthly regular content? We're releasing another single, we want to have another touch point with our fans. All these are fine. I'm not judging any of these things. They're all good objectives. I have all of them, some just one, some all of them at the same time. Whatever your objectives are, write it down. We just need to know why we're doing this. That gives us a little bit of clarity. Now, number 6 is make a list of goals. Goals are, this is how I know it worked. Objectives are, this is why we're doing this. But goals are, this is how I know it worked. So these are things that we can measure. Now, the artist might have goals. The artist might say, I want to have my album released on vinyl. I want to hear my music on vinyl for the very first time. That might be their only goal. That's cool. They might say, I want to be featured in Pitchfork or Rolling Stone, and that's their only goal. Some artists say, I just want to be justified in doing another release. I just want enough sales and enough encouragement to be able to do this again. Now, what are the label's goals? Well, the label might say, and these are tangible goals, by the way, the label might say, I want profitability after 6 months. So this album has to be out for 6 months, and all the things that we invested in it, let's try to break even and then be profitable in the first 6 months. Or they might say, let's just sell 50% of the inventory. If we're doing vinyl, if we're doing 300 copies of vinyl, let's try to make sure we sell 150 copies of those in the first 3 months, or at least giveaways or whatever. Maybe it's 100,000 streams total for the whole album in the first year. These are your goals. They're tangible. There's something that you can measure. There's something that you can look back after your certain time period, 6 months or a year, and say, did we meet those goals? If we didn't meet those goals, how are we going to meet those goals in the future on future releases? Goals are important. Okay, number 7, now you can send the album to press. You can spend some time and you can send the single or the first single or the second single to curators, like Spotify, like playlist curators. You can use stuff like Playlist Supply or Submit Hub and submit your songs to curators. If you have contacts at magazines and newspapers, at blogs, anybody in the, you should be collecting a database of contacts. Start to send the album to them, pitch it, do it on a blast basis or an individual email basis. That's what I do. Start to send the album out or the single. Number 8, promote it on all your channels. So let's say we're getting closer to release day, or let's say we've just released the first single, or we've just announced the pre-order of the vinyl. Promote that on all of your social media platforms. And in fact, not just social media, everywhere. Why? Because every music fan is different, and every music fan likes to discover music and enjoy music in different ways. For example, some music fans actually just prefer to discover music at a traditional brick and mortar record store. Other people listen to college radio. Other people just subscribe to you on YouTube and will just hear your new music through your YouTube channel. Some people are totally about email or totally about Twitter. That's where they discover music. So populate the news to all of those channels. So if you're releasing a new single or if it's album release day, make sure you talk about it to your email list. You can send through the Bandcamp Messenger app. You can upload the new release on Bandcamp. They'll be notified on Spotify if they follow you in the release radar, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, on your YouTube channel, on your YouTube community tab, on Instagram as a reel or a story or a post or a live or whatever. Your email blast. Did I say that one already? Word of mouth. Put some signs up on the telephone poles around town. Do everything. And get the artist to do everything too. Number 9, and this is really important, save some things for after. Save some promotional assets for your post-release campaign. Plan for the day after release day, plan for the weekend after release day, plan for the week after release day, and plan for the month after release day. And so if you have a great music video, maybe don't release it in the lead up to the album. Save it for the week after the album's out or a month after the album's out. Same thing with like a merch line or even a physical release. So say you do digital and vinyl's not ready yet, and in a couple weeks vinyl comes out or a couple months vinyl comes out. That will kind of like reignite the interest in your album. And finally, number 10, and I like this one the most, have a plan for what's next. And I'm not talking about promoting this record. I'm talking about what's next for your artist. What's the next thing they're going to release? Is there a B-side single from this recording session that you're going to release? Is there an acoustic version or an instrumental version where you mute all the vocals and release that version in a couple months, 6 months, or at the 1-year anniversary of this release? What's the plan? On release day, you should really know what's next for this artist. Too many people treat release day like it's this finish line, like finishing an Ironman and being like, oh, I'm just going to sleep now for a couple of months and not do anything. But that's just not how it works. Like, think about HBO, right? When they finish like a great show like Game of Thrones, or it's like the last season of Succession or something, like that next Sunday, another show is starting, and so on and so on. They've always got something in the pipeline ready to be released. In fact, think of it this way. We know that the lead up to an album is like 2 to 3 months. That's what we've been talking about in this whole video. But before that, there's like 2 months of mixing and mastering. And before that, there's another 2 to 3 months of recording. And then before that, there's another 4 to 6 months of songwriting and touring and relaxing. And so it might take 1.5 to 2 years to make and release an album. So that means you got to start this process right away. So if you haven't started your next release on release day, remember, you're 2 years out. So if the artist has sent their album off to be mixed and mastered and manufactured, they really should be thinking about what's next. If your train has arrived at the destination, another one should be already on its way. That's just my opinion. I think artists should be prolific and creative, but that's just my opinion. You can download all of these by going to otherrecordlabels.com/plan, where you can get this as kind of a checklist and the notes from today's episode. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if I missed a step.